Hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. As always, it is Nick here, back with your daily crypto news and analysis. And today, we are going to be talking about Xinfin, aka XDC. So sit back, relax, and before we fully jump on into this video, I do just want to ask you guys could hit that like button. It does help the channel grow immensely, and of course, I always do greatly appreciate it. So overall, let me hit the refresh button, make sure everything is up to date. So we do see Bitcoin sitting at about almost 5.5% up on the 24-hour span after, of course, the Fed meeting this morning. On the 24-hour span, we're seeing a lot of altcoin movement. On the 7-day span, you guys can see XDC is still on the number 2 level here at 22.45% up on the 7-day span. I'm actually very happy about the overall volume that we've been seeing on XDC lately ever since its Uphold listing. I think that when we're talking about, ease of buying, things like Uphold definitely allow for a lot more retail demand. But guess what? We are still not on a ton of tier 1 exchanges. In fact, I don't even think that we are on one tier 1 exchange. So think about that, right? So XDC is up currently almost like 30% on the 7-day span, and we don't even have a tier 1 listing. Isn't that comical? Now, as we are talking about XDC, I've been addressing XDC a lot lately, specifically in regards to trade finance, and we're going to be really doing a deep dive on why that is such an important area for Xinfin. So let's dive in. Let's talk about a few things. Then we could talk about the chart and, of course, price analysis on XDC. So first off, shout out to West Beefield, LA. But we do see our highlights for XDC the last week. Uphold list XDC. Andre Casterman joins Impel official as an advisor to further the XDC ecosystem. Centralized Exchange IO announces they are about to list XDC. The Queen announces English law reform MLETR for electronic trade documents, and then XDC being selected and approved by the government of Panama for being a medium of exchange. Guys, honestly, when we're talking about this week, so far has been probably one of the biggest weeks for XDC so far. We've been seeing so much bullish announcements around XDC, and we are still only sitting at about 6.5 cents. The only reason why I say we're only sitting at about 6.5 cents is because from here it's nearly a 3x to the all-time highs. And that all-time high at roughly 18 cents is absolutely nothing in terms of where XDC could actually go. And I've talked to you guys about the short-term and the long-term views on XDC. The future is so bright for the Xinfin ecosystem. I'm very excited for it, and we're going to be addressing why. So next, I do want to talk to you guys about this. So shout out to Darren Lewis Jr. on Twitter. But we do see XDC, the future of economics in light of the history of financial information technology. Trade tech repackaged trade finance assets and tokenized them on the XDC network as an NFT in such a way as to entitle investors to the underlying off-chain assets. And we actually do see this. This is from April 2022. Gradually and then suddenly, the future of economics in light of the history of financial information technology. This is from Andre Casterman, Christoph Gugelman, and Atol Kade. I really butcher their names, and I do apologize if I am. But you guys can read all about this if you want. But basically, this is talking about trade tech and how big of an innovation that is to utilize something like trade tech for NFTs, specifically in regards to trade finance. And we do see that up here, the first step in this direction was taken in September 2021 when TradeTech, a member of the World Economic Forum and the founding member of the Trade Finance Distribution Initiative, TFDI, which, by the way, we're going to be talking about TFDI here shortly, a consortium of dozens of the world's leading banks and non-bank financial institutions established by the International Trade and Forfeiting Association, ITFA. This is why I'm saying like we're going to be talking about the TFDI. For the purpose of liquefying trade finance, complete the world's first trade finance-based non-fungible token on the XDC network. I want you guys to understand where XDC is actually positioned. And we do see down here, even Gary Gensler, the current US SEC commissioner chair, who as a crypto skeptic needs no introduction, had no difficulty seeing that trade finance is more than any other space ripe for blockchain technology. And then we do see here 16 trade finance is the opening wedge. And I want you guys to realize where trade finance is actually positioned, because this is a $19 trillion market. And with XDC, Xinfin only being an almost $1 billion market cap, almost $5 billion fully diluted, this one is in terms of ROI, probably one of the most undervalued ISO 222 tokens. Now, Andre Kasserman also talking about the DNI initiative, MLETR, and talking about Anigio. So Anigio is very significant, but let's actually talk about this real quick. So first off, we talk about Anigio a lot in regards to trade finance with Xinfin, and the reason why is because there's actually a lot of connections here. So first off, Anigio is the winner of the Trade Digitization Award. Pretty interesting, but of course it doesn't surprise me. So Anigio is recreating trust in the digital world. You guys can read all about this. It is, of course, through digitization of a ton of trade finance documents. We do see their mission to offer innovative solutions to ensure consistency, integrity, and traceability of digital information in time, making data available only to those that should have access and protecting it from manipulation, create independent proof that cannot be manipulated, showing what happened, when, and in what order. And of course, they are utilizing DOT technology, most likely, in my opinion, Xinfin, because look at their references. So first off, they have been working with Finastra, which Finastra is a huge, massive company. I've talked about it for a long time. But we also see ITFA. Now, ITFA is actually a pretty significant company because when we talk about a lot of things in regards to trade finance, we see ITFA as being a large name in the space, specifically in regards to the Trade Finance Distribution Initiative, TFDI. With Anigio, with trade finance, the reason why I do connect these two with Xinfin and Anigio, right, is because when we look at the team behind this, specifically the advisors, we see Andre Kasserman being a part of this. Andre Kasserman is also an advisor for Xinfin. In fact, if you look at his resume, he's talking about furthering tokenization with the Xinfin ecosystem through trade finance. But this was not the only connection, right? Because that's such a small connection, it doesn't really matter, right? Probably nothing. We overlook a few things going back in time, specifically this article here from, again, Trade Finance Global, Anigio, an introduction to digitizing bank guarantees end-to-end. And when we come down here, you can see exactly how this is going to work. For the party issuing the digital document, only 3 components are needed, and the first 2 are usually already in place: a PDF or any digital content, an electronic signature, and then a digital original document, trace or original. Now, this is going to be, digitization of trade documents. We can see this. There is currently no one way on how to issue digital bank guarantees. Today, bank guarantees are predominantly issued on paper or through SWIFT if it is a bank-to-bank guarantee. Occasionally, guarantees are also issued as electronically signed PDFs or on closed platforms. You guys can see how this would basically work. In my opinion, when we're talking about that DOT, Xinfin will most likely be the best choice here for, again, tokenization of these trade documents. I'm very excited to watch a lot of this unfold. Now, again, this was just one document. There was really nothing talking about Xinfin, right? Well, let's talk about a few things. So the connections to Xinfin with Anigio would most likely be through ITFA with the TFDI, but you could also see the connections here, or the bridge between Anigio and Finastra, and also the names that they are working with. You guys do see the names that they are working with on each side. Of course, Finastra having massive connections to a ton of trade finance names, and of course, when we're talking about global trade finance, we know this is a massive market, and we know that, again, Andre Kasserman with Xinfin is positioned perfectly for disrupting the space. But Anigio has also been connected with XDC, aka Xinfin, for a while now. In fact, there's been a growing connection between the two since going back to as far as December and even beforehand, going all the way back to like 2020, right? So when we look at this, Session for Trade Finance World Community, this goes back to December 2021. We do see Head of Ecosystem Development, XDC Network. And then we do see, again, Andre Kasserman, founder, Kasserman Advisory, and Chair of FinTech Committee, ITFA. We do see Anigio and Trade Tech being mentioned here. Interesting. And then we've seen this as well. Now, this goes back in time a little bit. This goes back to 2020. Like I said, there's connections all the way back to 2020. And there might even be connections back to 2019 from what I've seen on Twitter from a few individuals. But we do see Swift File Act and Anigio's Trace Original provide the best of both worlds to the global trade finance community. Now, this is actually written by Andre Kasserman, like I've said, direct connection to Xinfin. We'll address that real quick if you guys don't know. But we do start, how can banks involved in documentary trade financing take advantage of their SWIFT connectivity for exchanging trade documents with their counterparties? How can digital originals be exchanged rather than digital copies? Or how can legacy and new technologies be combined to deliver a cost-efficient and rapid outcome? Does DOT help in this case? And again, File Act was born in 2002 with, of course, a SWIFT's bulk payments market manager. Now, we do know Andre Kasserman has been a part of SWIFT for 20 years. He worked with them for 20 years. And we do see 100 plus financial institutions had been onboarded onto File Act, including initial corporate customers and ACHs. Now, since then, to date, it has been, the payments industry that has seen the potential of File Act for bulk payments. More than 300 correspondent banks have so far registered to move their bulk payments processing from costly proprietary messaging formats to SwiftNet File Act. Now, you might be wondering, why does this even matter? What's the big case here? Well, ultimately, the reason why this is important is because when we move over and transition to ISO 222, who's going to be the leading name behind digitization of these trade documents? Well, in my opinion, it's going to be Xinfin. The reason why is because we look here, right? Rather than mandating any use of SWIFT's MT or the then burgeoning ISO 222 formats, I positioned File Act as an open transport layer and invited institutions to keep on using their existing business practices and messaging formats. This made a huge difference as technological change was then limited to the transport layer, not impacting the agreed bilateral practices and the back office processing. As we do move on down here, my advice, number one, offering choice has always been my preference. This enables financial institutions to adopt new technologies at their own pace. We see down here, 2020, DOT becomes relevant in trade. I wonder through who? Oh yeah, that's right, ITFA. We set up the D&I initiative, which aims to digitize negotiable instruments such as bills of exchange and promissory notes. The approach that the committee retained embraces three technology developments. And you guys can see that here. Again, it's all through DOT. What, how, why? You guys can see exactly why digitization of this space would be significant. We do see here, my advice number two, DOT is the best used as a public digital notary to enable contracting parties to share and transfer assets without externalizing any business information. Document/transaction details should stay in banks' own systems and, when relevant, on any third-party platform banks choose to adopt. Now, it's funny that they are mentioning this. Specifically, this is written by Andre Kasserman. It's all about DOTs. That is a significant thing. Now, we do see the Inigio logo here. But this is all through the ITFA D&I initiative. It's funny that they are mentioning, again, digitization of trade documents, and they're only mentioning Inigio. In my opinion, the connections with Inigio and Xinfin matter greatly here because, again, it's all through a DOT-based system. That DOT-based system, in my opinion, not in terms of biasness, is going to be Xinfin. And the reason why is because we've already seen Xinfin take a part of this. And a few people are also asking the same question. Could XDC Network ensure the whole process, as it is a hybrid blockchain network with no need to SWIFT costly correspondence accounts? In other terms, why we can't see a mix of XDC as trade finance, revolutionary, and Ripple, Rapid, for instance, payment and settlement, not expensive, no Nostros/Vostros accounts, no correspondence. Can we concept a whole system built on the XDC network, trade finance and settlement of transactions? And that is a significant question, and the answer is yes, we can. In fact, when we talk about settlement, we technically don't need SWIFT here. I would say that SWIFT is the thing that is actually making this inefficient. But it is, of course, the number one adopted and accepted network of choice by a lot of financial institutions. Now, how will this all work together? Well, we know that Inigio and Xinfin have been in the talks for a very long time. This goes back to March of 2021. So we do see down here, again, co-founder of Xinfin Network with, of course, Andre Kasserman here. These are the individuals that were talking throughout this entire meeting. There's a few people from Settlement or Settle, Lloyds Bank, blockchain lead as well at WTO. These are pretty significant names. Now, they were talking about leveraging DLTs in a manner that business data is not exposed and the blockchain acts as a digital notary only. Now, this is, again, Inizio's trace. It's leveraging DLT. They're not providing a DLT. They're leveraging DLT, which tells me they are leveraging Xinfin. There is no other DLT-based network within these names that is the number one choice for a DLT. We also go back in time again to this document from December 2020 from the ITFA, regulatory advocacy around trade digitization in full swing. We do see Xinfin mentioned 3 times here. So here's the first one. Xinfin, an ITFA member with regulated entities in SG and UAE, provides an advanced tokenization and liquidity sourcing platform in support of trade finance and stablecoins to bring retail and institutional liquidity to alternative leaders and traditional banks. Xinfin is also based on hybrid blockchain technology. Now, again, you can see exactly where all of these play a big role. For an example, Inizio, the ITFA member powering the DNI initiative, has demonstrated how Trace Original digitizes original documents such as guarantees, bill of exchange, and promissory notes in the most pragmatic and interoperable way. Now, again, they are leveraging DLTs. The only DLT here is, again, Xinfin. When we talk about all of these, right, this is the landscape of it. We talk about trade tech with Xinfin. That is a huge, significant role in terms of trade finance. All of these will play a key role. But we do see down here, in terms of Cargo X, both Cargo X and Xinfin leverage the power of hybrid blockchain technology for trade finance, which means Cargo X could also play a vital role here. But I do believe that all of these will work together in terms of a new trade finance system, specifically regarding ISO 20022. The connections here run deep in terms of the ITFA. We can see exactly the documents that were mentioned within this article here, which is just recently from, again, August 2020 itself. And this is mentioned here again in December of 2020. When we talk about things happening around trade finance, I think that it's significant to pay attention to the names associated with a lot of these solutions. With Inizio is a huge connection to this all, specifically because we know Andre Kasserman is working with them. We know that we are in support of course, Inizio. We do see thanks to Inizio Time and DLT. DLT is the specific main focus point here. The only other name that Andre Kasserman is associated with in terms of DLTs is, again, Xinfin. I'm very excited to see a lot of this come to fruition, but in my opinion, XDC, Xinfin, is the direct connection for it all to work fully. We know that in September of last year, the NFT transaction in terms of a trade document that was fully tokenized was the biggest innovative move in trade finance. It was the first one. It was huge in terms of disrupting and truly fortifying the future of trade finance through, of course, tokenization. And even if you go to Andre Kasserman's page, you could see exactly why this would be significant. We do see the names that he's working with. In fact, we look at Inizio, Minigram, and TradeStream, digitizing and automating trade origination. But then we see other fintech advisory, Xinfin, tokenization and digital asset technology. That tokenization is going to be a key aspect for, of course, trade finance, because tokenization is going to tokenize and move in terms of the trade documents from one network to another. I'm very excited for this because, in my opinion, Xinfin is going to be the glue that holds it all together. Of course, this starts with the migration to ISO 20022, which is coming in November. I'm very excited for the future of Xinfin. In fact, XDC has been growing rapidly. Off of our, accumulation zone, Xinfin is actually up fairly well. In fact, our accumulation zone has been roughly around 5 cents in terms of an average. We are already up over 30%. She has been moving off of the lows 50% already. And this is nowhere in need of being done. I'm very excited for the future here because off of those 5 cents, we are looking at an over 300% gain in terms of value almost. So with that in mind, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, definitely leave a like, subscribe, turn notifications on. If you guys want more free content, you guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord down in the description below. As always, I hope that you all enjoyed this video. If you guys did, definitely subscribe and turn those notifications on, as it does help the channel grow immensely. Also, if you do want free or more free content, you guys are more than welcome to go check out my Twitter and join the free Discord down in the description below. As always, I hope that you all have a beautiful day or beautiful night wherever you guys are in this beautiful world. That's been Nick. Peace out, guys.